Pennsylvania may be known for its rich history and breathtaking landscapes, but behind the beauty lies something far more chilling. From battlefields soaked in blood to prisons that echo with screams and mansions where cursed objects claim lives. These are places where the past refuses to die. Tonight, we're taking you deep into the shadows of the Keystone State to uncover the top 15 haunted places in Pennsylvania. But be warned, some of these stories are so unsettling, you may never look at Pennsylvania the same way again. One, Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia. You step through the rusted iron gates, and instantly, the air feels heavier, as if the walls themselves are watching you. This is the Eastern State Penitentiary, once hailed as the most advanced prison in the world when it opened in 1829. Its towering stone walls and endless cell blocks were designed to enforce silence, solitude, and repentance. But over the decades, it became a place of unimaginable suffering. Inmates were chained in darkness, some driven to madness, others never making it out alive. And that's where the whispers begin. Visitors today report hearing clanging metal doors echoing down the halls when no one is there. Guards on night patrols once claimed to see shadowy figures darting across cell block 12, a place notorious for screams that rise and fall without a single soul inside. One tourist even captured a photo of a pale, skeletal figure peering from behind a doorway, an image so chilling it was once featured on national television. But the most unnerving stories, they say, if you walk slowly past the crumbling cells, you might hear someone breathing right behind you. When you turn, there's nothing but the hollow silence of the prison. And yet, that silence feels alive. Here, at Eastern State, you don't just learn about history, you feel it reaching for you, reminding you that some prisoners never left. They're still waiting, in the shadows. Gettysburg Battlefield, Gettysburg. You walk onto the rolling fields of Gettysburg, and the ground itself feels heavy, as if it remembers every drop of blood spilled here. In July of 1863, this was the site of the most brutal battle of the Civil War. Over 50,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or vanished, leaving behind not just history, but echoes that refuse to fade. As you stand among the monuments and open fields, a sudden chill creeps over you. Visitors often hear the distant sound of musket fire or the drums of marching regiments, even though the land is quiet. Some have seen full apparitions of soldiers, gray uniforms, rifles in hand, walking in formation, only to vanish into the mist. One of the most infamous spots is Devil's Den, a rocky outcrop drenched in blood during the battle. Photographers report that their cameras fail here. Batteries drain in seconds. And when the pictures finally develop, strange figures appear in the background faces of soldiers who shouldn't exist anymore. Perhaps the most unsettling tale comes from tourists who swore they were approached by a ragged soldier. He gave them detailed directions to a monument, and when they turned to thank him, he was gone. No footsteps, no trace, just the lingering scent of gunpowder in the air. At Gettysburg, the war never truly ended. The soldiers are still marching, and sometimes they let you see them. 3. Hillview Manor, Newcastle. The building looms ahead, its windows shattered, its corridors swallowed by darkness. This is Hillview Manor, once a nursing home for the elderly and a final refuge for the poor and abandoned. When it opened in the 1920s, it was meant to offer comfort, but over time, it became a house of sorrow. Many patients died here, some in pain, others in complete loneliness. Their bodies may have left, but their spirits never did. Step inside, and you'll feel the weight of their presence. Investigators have captured whispering voices on EVP recorders, voices begging, crying, even calling out names. In the East Wing, shadows slide across the walls, even when no light is cast. Nurses who once worked here spoke of wheelchairs moving on their own and doors slamming with such force that the frames shook. One chilling legend speaks of a little boy named Jeffrey, a ghost often spotted playing in the hallways. Guests say they've heard the sound of bouncing balls, only to find nothing there. And in the basement, many claim to feel an overwhelming dread, as if something darker, something inhuman, is waiting. Paranormal teams from across the country have come to Hillview, and nearly all leave with the same conclusion. This isn't just a haunted building. It's a place where despair has soaked into the walls and where the dead are desperate to be noticed. Four, Pennhurst State School and Hospital, Spring City. You step onto the crumbling grounds of Pennhurst, and instantly, the silence presses against you. This massive complex once housed thousands of patients with mental illnesses and disabilities, beginning in 1908. What was supposed to be a place of care soon spiraled into horror. Overcrowding, neglect, and abuse turned Pennhurst into a nightmare. By the time it closed in 1987, it carried the weight of countless broken lives. Walk inside the abandoned halls, and the past clings to you. Paint peels from the walls like decaying skin. Wheelchairs sit abandoned in dark corners, and graffiti hides the stories of those who suffered. But the air is never still. Visitors have heard screams echoing down empty corridors, the rattling of shackles, and the sound of hurried footsteps chasing them through the asylum. Paranormal teams have captured full-bodied apparitions, patients shuffling in hospital gowns, orderlies standing motionless in the shadows. One of the most infamous spots is the underground tunnels, where investigators reported being pushed, scratched, even whispered to in chilling tones. Perhaps the most terrifying is the feeling that you're being watched. Eyes you cannot see follow you from room to room, as if the patients of Pennhurst are still trapped, reliving their torment. Some believe they're crying for help. Others believe they want revenge. Here, at Pennhurst, the suffering never ended. It only changed form. And if you stay too long, you might carry a piece of it home with you. 5. The Bonet Tavern, Bedford. The moment you cross the threshold of the Bonet Tavern, you feel it an icy draft that doesn't belong. Built in the 1760s, this stone tavern has stood through wars, rebellion, and centuries of restless nights. Once a gathering place for soldiers and travelers, it also became a courtroom, and, legend says, an execution site. Beneath its floors, Hidden tunnels and cellars are said to have witnessed death that history never fully recorded. Today, the tavern still welcomes guests, but some of them never leave. Patrons have reported glasses sliding across tables, rocking chairs swaying with no one near, and the unmistakable presence of unseen hands brushing their shoulders. Staff have told stories of footsteps pacing upstairs, even when the rooms were empty. The most chilling tale centers around the basement. Workers uncovered human bones buried beneath the floorboards, fueling rumors that the tavern once served as a site of secret burials. Since then, visitors claim to see a shadowy figure of a man in colonial garb, standing silently in the corner before vanishing into the walls. And if you spend the night upstairs, don't be surprised if you wake to the sound of voices murmuring in your room, voices that belong to no living guest. At the Jean Bonet Tavern, history is never just history. It lingers, it watches, and sometimes it drinks with you. Sexton, Hotel Bethlehem, Bethlehem. Step into the grand lobby of the Hotel Bethlehem, and you're surrounded by chandeliers, polished wood, and the elegance of another era. Built in the 1920s, on the site of an old Moravian community, this hotel was meant to embody luxury and warmth. But behind the golden glow of its halls, something else lingers, spirits that never checked out. Guests and staff whisper about the Lady in Blue, a ghostly figure believed to be May Yohei, a Broadway star who once lived nearby. She's been seen gliding through the dining room, her sapphire gown shimmering before she disappears into thin air. Others report catching her reflection in mirrors, her eyes locking with theirs, only for the glass to go empty in the next breath. But she's not alone. In room 932, guests wake to find a child sitting at the edge of the bed, giggling softly before vanishing into the shadows. Housekeepers tell of sheets being tugged from their hands, as if someone unseen was trying to play. Even the hotel's piano has been heard playing by itself in the dead of night, soft notes echoing down empty corridors. The staff embrace these stories, even calling the spirits residents. But when you're lying awake at 3 a.m., listening to footsteps in the hall and a knock on your door with no one outside, the charm quickly turns to dread. At Hotel Bethlehem, you don't just book a room, you book a night with the afterlife. Seven, the Devils Den, Gettysburg. You climb over the massive boulders of the Devil's Den, and the ground feels uneasy beneath your feet. During the Battle of Gettysburg in July 1863, this rocky outcrop became a slaughterhouse. Confederate sharpshooters hid among the stones, Union soldiers charged, and the earth was painted red with blood. Hundreds died here, their bodies left to decay in the summer sun. The rocks still seem to drink in that history, and something else. Visitors say the air is never quiet. Cameras malfunction, batteries drain instantly, and photographs often reveal faces of soldiers peering from behind the stones. Tourists have captured men in gray uniforms so solid, they thought they were reenactors, only to watch them vanish before their eyes. One story chills above all others. A group of travelers once claimed a scruffy soldier approached them, speaking in a southern drawl. He gave them exact directions to the Union lines, smiling before walking away. When they turned to thank him, he had disappeared, leaving only the faint smell of gunpowder Paranormal investigators call this place a hotspot, not just for sightings, but for voices caught on recorders. Commands shouted, cries of the wounded, even the sharp crack of a phantom musket. At the Devil's Den, the war never ended. The soldiers are still fighting, still dying, still waiting among the stones. And if you listen closely, you'll hear them calling for you. Eight, Albright Memorial Library, Scranton. From the outside, the Albright Memorial Library looks like something out of a Gothic novel. Towering stone walls, arched windows, and a hushed elegance. Built in 1893, it was meant to be a beacon of knowledge, a sanctuary for readers. But inside its quiet halls, there are stories of shadows that don't belong to the living. Patrons have reported footsteps echoing between the bookshelves long after closing time. The sound of someone pacing, circling, but no one is ever found. Librarians tell of doors slamming shut on their own, and the rustling of pages as if invisible hands were flipping through forgotten tomes. Some even swear they've seen a dark figure moving between the stacks, vanishing the moment they look directly at it. One employee recalled shelving books late at night when she felt a cold breath on the back of her neck. She turned, but the aisle was empty. Another spoke of being followed by the faint scent of old cigar smoke, though smoking has been banned here for decades. Perhaps the most unsettling tales come from the basement archives, where staff refuse to work alone. Whispers drift through the darkness, soft and urgent, as if someone is trying to be heard from the other side. The Albright Memorial Library may promise knowledge, but its walls also keep secrets. Secrets that whisper in the silence and make sure you never feel truly alone. Nine, the Betsy Ross House, Philadelphia. At first glance, the Betsy Ross House looks like a piece of gentle history, a small colonial home where Betsy Ross is said to have sewn the first American flag. But as you step inside its creaking rooms, the air grows colder, heavier, as if the past has sunk into every brick. This house doesn't just tell history, it breathes it. For generations, visitors have reported seeing the ghost of Betsy Ross herself, wandering the halls in a simple gown. Some claim she appears near the bedroom window, silently weeping. Others hear her soft sobs in the dead of night, echoing through the stairwell. They say she mourns the loss of her first husband, who died during the Revolution, leaving her alone to carry her grief within these walls. Staff have described doors that slam without warning, and tools in the workshop moving by unseen hands. Tourists whisper about a sudden drop in temperature in the parlor, followed by the unmistakable sense that someone is standing just behind them. And when they turn, nothing. But the most chilling encounters happen in the cellar. Paranormal investigators have captured unexplained voices on recordings, urgent whispers, and the distinct cry of a woman. One team even claimed they saw a shadow figure glide past the old flag-making room, vanishing into the darkness as if retreating back into time. The Betsy Ross House may stand as a symbol of American pride, but its restless spirit is a reminder even patriots carry their grief into the afterlife. General Wayne Inn, Marion. The General Wayne Inn has stood since 1704. its stone walls steeped in colonial history. Once a tavern where George Washington and his officers dined, it later became a gathering place for soldiers, travelers, and locals. But centuries of life also brought centuries of death, and the inn's walls seem unwilling to let go of its past. Guests have long reported glasses sliding across the bar on their own, whispers drifting through empty rooms, and footsteps echoing overhead when no one is staying upstairs. Employees claim to see apparitions of Revolutionary War soldiers, their uniforms tattered, their faces weary. Some sit at tables as if waiting for ale, only to fade into the air. One of the inn's most famous legends tells of a Hessian soldier, a mercenary, who fought in the Revolution. His spirit has been seen wandering the halls, sometimes glaring at guests, other times disappearing into the walls. In the basement, staff have felt hands brush against them, cold and deliberate, when no one else was present. Perhaps most unsettling are the mirrors. Visitors swear they've looked into the glass only to see strangers staring back, figures in 18th century clothing who vanish when the gaze breaks. The General Wayne Inn may appear like a cozy relic of history, but inside, time refuses to move on. Here, the Revolutionary War never truly ended. Its soldiers still haunt the very place where they once drank, fought, and died. Bolton Mansion, Levittown. The Bolton Mansion stands like a relic from another century, its colonial walls weathered by time. Built in the late 1600s by one of Pennsylvania's earliest settlers, this house has witnessed wars, loss, and countless generations passing through its halls. But some of those souls never left. Step inside, and the air feels strangely heavy. Visitors often report cold spots in the middle of warm rooms, as if an unseen presence lingers nearby. Shadows drift across the staircases, and the sound of children's laughter echoes through empty halls. Many believe these are the spirits of young lives, cut short within the mansion's long history. Caretakers tell of doors that open on their own, and the piano that plays faint notes at night when no hands touch its keys. Paranormal investigators have recorded EVPs of whispers, one even capturing the words, "Get out." But the most unsettling legend speaks of a woman in white, seen gliding across the second-floor balcony. Guests describe her face as pale, sorrowful, always gazing toward the fields beyond, as if she's waiting for someone who never came home. Bolton Mansion may look like a piece of colonial history, but its walls hold something deeper, a reminder that not every spirit rests, and not every story has an ending. Hmel Park Cemetery, Hummelstown. By day, Hmel Park Cemetery looks like a quiet resting place, its headstones leaning with age beneath the trees. But once the sun sinks, the air grows unnaturally cold, and this small cemetery transforms into one of Pennsylvania's most unsettling haunts. Locals whisper of strange lights flickering between the graves, orbs that hover and then vanish into the dark. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs of voices calling out names, sometimes pleading, sometimes laughing in tones too chilling to forget. Visitors say they've heard footsteps crunching over the leaves behind them, only to find the cemetery empty. One of the eeriest encounters comes from those who've seen shadowy figures standing at the edge of the grounds, watching in silence. When approached, they dissolve into the night. Others tell of sudden gusts of icy wind sweeping through the rows of graves, as if unseen mourners are still wandering among the stones. Some locals avoid the cemetery altogether, insisting that once you enter after dark, something follows you home, whether it's the spirits of the forgotten or something far darker. The whispers at Hmel Park Cemetery remind you that the dead here are not at peace. Here, every shadow feels alive, and every step might not be yours alone. (13) Vansco Covered Bridge, New Hope. Locals call it the Haunted Bridge, and when you see the Vansco Covered Bridge at night, you understand why. Built in 1875, its weathered wooden beams stretch over a quiet creek, but its history is anything but peaceful. This place is tied to death, despair, and stories too dark to ignore. Some legends claim the bridge was once a site of executions, where desperate souls met their end at the noose. Others whisper about a young mother who took her own life here, along with her child, their grief forever bound to the bridge's timbers. Visitors report the unmistakable sound of ropes creaking above them, even when the air is still. Drivers who cross late at night sometimes see a woman in white standing in the middle of the bridge, her figure pale in the moonlight, only for her to vanish when headlights hit her. Paranormal teams have recorded chilling EVPs of voices crying out, and some investigators have left with scratch marks across their arms, as if something unseen reached for them. Most terrifying are the stories of phantom hands. People crossing on foot say they've felt icy fingers brush against their necks, or worse, shove them toward the edge. At Vansco Covered Bridge, the darkness doesn't just surround you, it waits for you inside. (14) Broad Axe Tavern, Ambler. Standing since the late 1600s, the Broad Axe Tavern is one of Pennsylvania's oldest inns. Its timber beams and colonial charm suggest warmth and history, but when night falls, the tavern reveals a much darker side. For centuries, travelers, soldiers, and locals passed through these doors, and some of them never truly left. Guests and staff alike tell of phantom footsteps pacing the upstairs halls, doors slamming without cause, and the chilling sound of a woman weeping when no one is there. Many have reported seeing a lady in a long, old-fashioned dress gliding silently through the dining room before vanishing into thin air. Her presence is often felt as a sudden coldness, wrapping around anyone unlucky enough to stand in her path. Bartenders have watched glasses slide across the counter by invisible hands. Late at night, whispers echo through the tavern's empty rooms, sometimes so close they brush your ear, though no one is beside you. One particularly unsettling story tells of a guest who woke in the middle of the night to find a shadowy figure at the foot of the bed. Frozen in fear, they watched as the figure leaned closer before dissolving into darkness. The Broad Axe Tavern may welcome you with food and drink, but within its walls, something else lingers, something that watches, that listens, and that makes sure you never forget you're not alone. 15. Baleroy Mansion, Philadelphia. The Baleroy Mansion is often called the most haunted house in Philadelphia, and the moment you approach its looming facade, you understand why. Built in 1911, this lavish estate became infamous, not for its grandeur, but for the darkness that seems to dwell within its walls. The mansion is filled with antiques and paintings collected over centuries, but the most terrifying artifact is known as the death chair. Locals say anyone who dares to sit in it meets an untimely end. Several visitors who tried never lived long afterward. Their deaths sudden and unexplained. The chair still sits inside, untouched, a silent invitation to the brave or the foolish. But the death chair is only part of the story. Guests and staff have reported seeing the ghost of a little boy, darting through the halls, laughing one moment and vanishing the next. Others claim a man in a blue coat lingers in the drawing room, glaring at intruders before disappearing into the walls. Even the mirrors in the house are said to hold secrets. Visitors have sworn they saw faces staring back at them that weren't their own. Paranormal teams who entered Baleroy Mansion describe being shoved, scratched, even choked by an unseen force. And many leave with the same warning. This is not just a haunted house. It's a place where the line between the living and the dead is dangerously thin. At Baleroy Mansion, every room feels alive. Every shadow hides a watcher. And once you step inside, you may not leave alone. You've now journeyed through prisons of despair, battlefields of endless war, and mansions where restless spirits still walk among the living. Pennsylvania is more than history. It's a state haunted by those who refuse to be forgotten. The question is, would you dare to visit any of these places yourself if you enjoyed this chilling journey? Make sure to subscribe for more haunted tales, and let us know in the comments which of these haunted locations would you explore, and which would you never set foot in. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.